Hey there, welcome back. This is part 2 of my lessons on learning HTML. So if you were with me on the first lesson, we built this document here, which was very basic. All it had was the body tag that outputted the text, hello world, unformatted, very blank. So this time I'm going to take a look at this and show you a few more elements that we can use. So one element I want to show you is the very basic inline element of the paragraph tag, and that is P. So open bracket P, close bracket, open bracket /P, close bracket to close it. And what we do to that is put our text inside that. I always feel that no text should be naked without some of these inline elements. And inline means just that it's a line of text and it's represented as something that's just a line and not a block of text, or not a block element. And we'll talk about that in a future lesson. But the P tag is a very basic element that every piece of text should be wrapped in if you don't know what to wrap it in otherwise. So I'm going to save that and go back into our document, and it shouldn't really change much at all. The only thing it's doing is giving us a little bit of spacing around there. So that's all it's doing, and I'll show you how to style that in a lesson coming up soon. So going back to our Notepad++, we have our paragraph. Now the other element I want to show you starting off is going to be a new one in HTML5, and remember I'm tabbing in to keep these organized, and that is the header tag. And please note that these are all going inside the body tag right now. The header tag is a element that can go as a header, and hopefully that is somewhat self-explanatory with the name itself. But what it does is it can tend to go at the top of the page to contain head type headlines and things that would be at the top of a page, or things that would be at the top of a section, and that will get further explained as we go. But for now I just want to put something in here that will be a header type thing, and maybe something like welcome to our web page, something like that. And so we have a different types of element for that one. So let's go back to our page, refresh, and we have these two lines. They really are not distinguished from each other as far as what we see visibly, because there is no styling on that. We'll style those fairly soon. But what I do want to underline is how these will be recognized differently from search engine crawlers, so such as Google. When it comes across, it'll see the header differently than it sees the paragraph. It will see them in a sort of hierarchy. So that is something we'll talk about as we move through these lessons. Going back to our page here, I do want to show you one more tag element that we can use. I'll probably throw out the word tag and element interchangeably, although I usually will mean element, as that is what these things are. So the one thing that I can show you here is an H1 tag, and there's several H tags that we'll go through later on, but I wanted to show you the H1 tag because it is a basic tag that you will have one of these on each page, and that information that is inside of here should be the most important information on the page, the information that you consider to be the vital information of the page, the information that encapsulates what the page is about, or the headline. So I'm going to wrap the welcome to our web page into an H1, although it's not all that descriptive in this case, but we'll talk about that soon. So we have our H1 inside of our header element, and then we have a paragraph tag that says hello world. And this really will not change very much, but you'll see one thing that changes as I refresh the page here, as it has become bigger. What the browsers do is they have their own styling that describes this H1 and makes it larger as a headline. And I'll show you how to override that soon enough to make it to whatever you want. But you can see now this is starting to look like a web page, at least a web page maybe in 1995. But that's very important to be able to make them look like this before you start to make them look all designed and fancy, because that is what a page will look like if somebody has CSS turned off or JavaScript turned off, or how the search engines will see them. Okay, so the one last thing I want to talk about, one more element, is the very basic element, the div tag. And the div tag doesn't really have any special meaning at all. But that's what's kind of nice about it, is the header tag describes something that should be in the head of a section or of the document. But the div tag is just a container for no other reason, just to contain something. And I'll show you how that can be important later on. Before we had the header tag, before HTML5 rolled around, we had to use div tags a lot, div. And you'll see that I had the opening and closing tag with the /. And I'm also going to tab this paragraph tag in to show that it's inside of this div tag. You can think of it as nested inside there. I'll use that term from now on, nested. But this div tag just wraps this p tag, and I'll show you how that can be important. But what it does is it lets me write rules later on into this div tag. But I would just want you to be familiar with that idea, the div tag, as a containing element that we can control and design with. So if I go back to the browser again, go back to Chrome in this case, refresh, you won't see any changes. And so I hope you can become familiar with those new tags, the header element, the H1, which is H probably stands for header, and the div tag and the p tag. So those are the tags that we have learned and we can use to start building our pages with. These are very basic elements that we all should know. Thank you.